Bonjour! In this short video, we are going to be talking about needles and how you choose the right kind and size for the project you're working on. The humble needle is a needle crafter's most important tool. Choosing the wrong one can lead to a frustrating making experience and disappointing results. The best needle to use for a specific project will depend on the type of stitch, fabric, and thread you are using. We're going to run through the most popular types of needle for hand embroidery and what each one is used for. Sharps needles. This is a sharps needle. If you only have one needle in your house, the chances are it's a sharps needle. They are good for basic sewing, for example, perfect for taking up a hem or stitching on a button. They have a sharp point and a round short eye. If you use them for embroidery, you may find it very difficult to thread when using multiple strands of embroidery thread. You may find it slips off the thread too easily or makes a hole in the fabric that is too large for the thread you are using. Embroidery and crewel needles. These are embroidery needles, which depending on the size is sometimes also known as crewel needles. They have a slender shaft and a sharp point that is designed to pierce through the fabric easily, for example, cotton, linen or muslin. They have a medium to long eye to make it easier to thread with multiple strands of stranded cotton. Crewel needles derive their name from a traditional style of embroidery called crewel work that uses a fine 2-ply woolen thread to stitch onto linen fabric. The Bayeux tapestry is perhaps the best known example of crewel work. Because the woolen thread is thicker than the stranded thread typically used for hand embroidery, a larger size needle, numbers 7, 5 and 3, is needed, which is why these needles are sometimes referred to as crewel needles. We'll talk a bit more about how to use the right size needle in a moment. Choose an embroidery or crewel needle from an embroidery project where you are stitching on a smooth fabric, where the technique requires you to pierce the fabric. Most needles are made up from carbon steel and are nickel plated, but you can also get gold plated needles. The gold plating makes the needles highly resistant from humidity, body oils and rust. They slide through the fabric more easily than other metals. They are also hypoallergenic for sensitive skin. Tapestry and cross stitch needles. This is a tapestry needle, which depending on the size are also called cross stitch needles. These needles have a large eye, a thicker form and a blunt point. They are used for stitching techniques that use fabrics with open holes that determine where the stitches are placed, such as Aida or canvas. This is because you want a needle that will pass smoothly through the open holes rather than piercing the fabric. The large eye also makes it easier to thread thicker yarns and threads. Tapestry or cross-stitch needle come in sizes 13 to 28. Again, the smaller the number, the larger the needle, so a size 28 tapestry needle is the finest. The most popular sizes are 18 and 22. Choose a tapestry needle for counted cross-stitch, needlepoint, and of course, tapestry. Gold-plated versions of cross-stitch needles are also available. Chenille needles. This is a chenille needle. Chenille needles are a cross between tapestry and embroidery needles. They have a sharp point, a large eye, and a thicker shaft than a standard embroidery needle. They are useful for thicker threads, fine yarns and ribbons, especially when you are stitching on smooth fabrics that need to be pierced. They are an excellent choice for ribbon embroidery because their sharp point makes a hole in the fabric that is large enough that the ribbon doesn't get damaged or worn as it passes through the fabric. When selecting a needle, you should also consider the thickness of the thread as well as the fabric you are using. The needle should pull through the fabric fairly easily and quietly. You may struggle to pull a needle that is too small through the fabric at all. If you find yourself tugging hard at the yarn or if the thread makes a loud rasping sound as you stitch, consider choosing a larger needle. If you choose a needle that is too large, you will find it often slips off the thread altogether and the holes in your fabric will be larger than the thread. There should not be a visible hole in the fabric around the thread of your completed stitches. If you were just beginning embroidery, here are some suggestions. For 6 strands, try using needle size 5. For 3 to 4 strands, number 7. For 2 to 3 strands, number 8. And for single-stranded, number 9. Your choice will also depend on the fabric you choose to embroider on, so you may need to try a few sizes before you settle on what's right for your project. If you were just beginning cross-stitch, size 22 cross-stitch needle is the most popular size when using 14 count Aida. Finding the perfect needle for your project might take a little experimentation, so buying a mixed pack of needles with different sizes can be a great place to begin. We hope you enjoyed this overview of the most popular types of needles and now feel a bit more confident about choosing the perfect needle for your project. Au revoir!